Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. I know things have been a little bit slow on the market in general recently, but we do still have several cards to cover off and talk about today. Most of you guys are probably busy opening your Battles of Legend, so hopefully you guys all pull a ton of quarter century secret rares. The set is really fun and my friends and I had a great time cracking open a case. I also did manage to pull this Starlight Engage, which looks absolutely amazing. I'm keeping this card for sure. Anyways, guys, let's get into today's episode. Alright, so first up, it's a really random card called Gemini Soldier. So we're actually starting with a card that is up because of Edison format. And to be honest, before I saw someone post about this card online, I didn't even know that it existed. Gemini Soldier is a Gemini monster with a pretty cool Gemini effect. Once per turn, if it would be destroyed by battle, it isn't. And then if the card battles, you special summon a level 4 or lower Gemini monster from your deck. Obviously, this card combos well with something like Neos Alias and Gemini Spark, two really powerful cards back in Edison format, and heroes are always going to be popular in any given format. I believe that the reason this card popped up is because there was a large-scale Edison format tournament where someone chose to run this tech card and actually did really well, prompting people to rush out and buy this previously unknown card. So for the most part, no one really knew about this thing, and I think that just a couple of weeks ago it was only a 25-cent card. Now, however, with just the one printing, and given how popular Edison format has gotten, this card has surged all the way up to $15 per copy. Now, I don't know if this card is really on Konami's reprint radar. We don't really have Geminis being relevant at all in today's game, so there's not really a competitive reason to, yet they do support various Time Wizard formats, so who knows if this card will eventually see a reprint soon or not. For those of you that have some old bulk lying around, this is a card that has come up out of nowhere that you will definitely want to try and dig up. Up next, we have Karakuri Steel Shogun Verado. So Karakuris are a really old archetype that have an interesting sort of gimmick. They have effects that revolve around switching them from attack to defense position, and they're pretty well known for being able to spam multiple high-level monsters onto the field. Verado is an interesting one that on special summons a Karakuri monster directly out of the deck. It's a bit annoying to make, since the non-tuner monster that you use has to be a machine, but it's pretty straightforward. Basically, some decks are using a fairly small super heavy samurai package to get 2 level 4 monsters onto the board. They then go into Verado, use Verado's effect to special summon a level 2 tuner Karakuri monster out of the deck, and then boom, you have access to a free Baron de Fleur without using your normal summon and by investing minimal resources. So this is a strategy that has popped up here and there. I don't think it's seen too much competitive success at like regionals and such, but it's a strategy that some players seem pretty keen to try out. Obviously, it does take up an extra deck slot and requires you to play several potentially bricky cards, since if you're a deck that plays spells and traps, the super heavy samurai cards are probably going to be dead after turn 1, but it's interesting in theory. Verado is the card that we're looking at here. Specifically, it's the ultimate rares that have jumped a bit. Before you could get an ultimate rare unlimited copy for around $6 or so. Now you are looking at around $12 to $15 per copy. The card does also have 2 other low rarity printings, the Ultra and Gold Rare. Each of those is around $2 to $3 for now. Keep in mind that this card is also useful in various different Time Wizard formats, so depending on what format gets popular at any given time, this card might be worth picking up a few copies of for its viability across several different formats. The next card is Big Welcome Labyrinth. So Labyrinth are a pretty solid contender this format. They weren't hit on the last ban list, and they're able to search for and resolve Eradicator Epidemic Virus fairly easily, as demonstrated in the finals of German Nationals. Now, in Battles of Legend, we got a reprint of Welcome Labyrinth, while Lady Labyrinth also got a quarter century secret rare printing. However, we also need to keep in mind that in the 2023 Megatins, we should be getting reprints of key cards from Tactical Masters and Darkwing Blast, which would include Lady Labyrinth and Ariana. Now, one notable card that would be missing there is Big Welcome Labyrinth, which didn't come out until Photon Hypernova, so it's possible that everything could be reprinted except for Big Welcome. Because of this, I think players are speculating that Big Welcome will go up in price once the tins come out, so they're looking to scoop the card up now. Basically, this is exactly what happened with Floowandereeze and the advent of Adventure, the Floowandereeze quick play spell card, which was the only piece to be excluded for the Floowandereeze deck from last year's Megatins, and we actually saw this card up at like $15 to $20 for a little while. Now because of this, Big Welcome has gone from being a $2 to $3 card to now being a solid $5, and we're still a couple of months away from the tins even coming out. If this does prove to be true, then I could definitely see Big Welcome going up to anywhere from $10 to $15 each, depending on how popular the deck is at the time, and if it is hit on the ban list or not by that point. But then again, it's also possible that Konami could completely break their trend and decide to just randomly include a couple of cards early for the sole purpose of appeasing the player base. Definitely a bit of a gamble here, but I think that if you can pick this card up for around $3 each, it's a pretty solid gamble to take that has relatively low downside. Next, we have Rescue Ace Turbulence. So last week we took a look at Hydrant and saw that it was going kind of crazy, and I think that's largely because it's the key 3-of for the strategy with the highest rarity printing. Now, however, it seems that we've forgotten about a card until now, and that is Turbulence. This card is a boss monster for the Rescue Ace deck, and it is responsible for setting up to 4 Rescue Ace quick play spells or normal traps directly from your deck to the field. This is the card that should theoretically win you the game basically if you are able to resolve its effect, and I believe that in the OCG players need this card to resolve, so they're choosing to run Proxy F Magician and Muddragon of the Swamp in the extra deck just to help prevent your opponent from targeting Turbulence with Effect Veiler or Infinite Impermanence. I remember when Rescue Ace were first revealed, I thought that this card was just so insane, right? Since it is a free special summon as well, it can be really difficult to see because the spells and traps don't really seem that broken, but when you have a card that just gets 4 cards out of the deck for free and they all do something, it almost doesn't matter what the cards you're searching for are. So this card is starting to trend up in price now as well, as this card is typically played at 2 in the deck. On one hand, the collector's rares are between $50 and $55, which is honestly not too bad, pretty reasonable for the highest possible rarity printing of the card. And then for the ultra rares, right now they're at about $12 each, not too bad, but definitely still up from the $3 to $4 that the card was at before. If you guys want to play Rescue Ace this upcoming format, after the new support from Duelist Nexus, you might actually want to consider picking the cards up now. The cards will likely see another wave of hype closer to the set's official release, so you will want to pick up your copies a bit earlier to try and dodge that. This one is a card that I think we have talked about before. It is Infernobyl Arms Durandal. So this is a pretty simple equipped spell card, and while it's equipped to a monster, you can pop it to search for a level 5 or lower Fire Warrior monster directly out of the deck. Really simple, it's kind of like an extra copy of Reinforcements of the Army, but obviously Rhoda is still limited to 1. Now on one hand, I think we are expecting a couple of new Infernobyl Knight cards within the next couple of sets. Nothing too game breaking, but of course Infernobyl Knights are a really well liked archetype, so players will be excited for those cards to come out. On the other hand though, this card is actually used by the Vanquish Soul strategy sometimes at 1. Vanquish Souls really want to search for and summon Raisin, Raisin being a key searcher for any Vanquish Soul monster in the deck. And with the strategy being very dependent on keeping specific monsters accessible in your hand all the time, it's definitely really important for Raisin to be as accessible as possible. For both of these reasons, the Vanquish Soul and Infernobyl Knights, Durandal is being sought after now, but specifically for its highest rarity printing, the ultra rare from Rise of the Duelist, which is currently going for around $7 to $8 per copy. This one is just a note for those of you that might have old ultra rare copies sitting around. The card still has very accessible super rare printings from the Megatins and rare printings from Amazing Defenders, so the card is actually really easy to find a copy of if you just want to play it. Just make a note of them if you have the ultras and want to offload them for a bit of money while they are being hyped up. Alright, so we're wrapping up with a couple of smaller cards. These cards might have some potential, but I see people posting about them a lot, so I wanted to bring them to you guys' attention. The first card is Full Force Virus, and it's not quite as devastating as something like Eradicator, but it's potentially similarly useful. This card requires you to tribute a dark monster with 2,000 or more defense points, and then you destroy your opponent's monsters with 1,500 or less defense points. So this card can be really devastating against certain decks. Things like Vanquish Soul and Sprite could potentially have a lot of monsters hit out of their hand completely. The idea is that Full Force Virus is actually really easy to resolve in Labyrinth. You can just tribute Ariana to pay the cost of Full Force Virus, and that doesn't require you to get rid of your Lady Labyrinth from the field, which also means that if you do have Lady Labyrinth up, you can chain its effect to the effect of Full Force Virus. It's kind of neat, and will probably depend on what cards and decks are good in any given format. Weirdly enough, this card does hit things like Nibiru and Droll and Lockbird, but it doesn't hit any of the Ghost Girls since they all have 1800 defense points. Anyways, Full Force Virus is still pretty cheap. The copy I'm looking at are the original print secret rares from Raging Tempest, which even right now are still only $2 to $3 each. The card has the Megaton printing as a secret rare, and then an ultra rare printing as well. Each of those should be under $1 per, but keep an eye on this card since a lot of eyes are on Labyrinth right now. If you can still pick up the original print secret rares for only $1 or $2, I think they're still super cheap and have some decent upside potential. And finally, the last card we're looking at for today is Pinpoint Landing. So this one is a really strange card. I think it's sort of like a really weak version of like Card of Safe Return. Pinpoint Landing is a continuous spell card that lets you once per turn draw a card if exactly one monster is special summoned from your hand to your side of the field, but then this card also goes to the graveyard if you didn't use its effect during your turn. So apparently, this card is a potential tech for the Vanquish Soul strategy, which bounces monsters from the field back to the hand, and then special summons monsters out of the hand onto the field for free. So if you just activate Landing, and you draw once, this card has become an Upstart Goblin, but then each time that you do it afterward, you're generating card advantage, which is pretty cool. Also do keep in mind that with Vanquish Soul, you could potentially draw cards on your opponent's turn as well, since the deck wants to have cards in hand all the time to reveal different attributes and play a bunch of hand traps. This card could potentially be really strong. However, at the same time, I could definitely see where this card isn't great. I could see it being really bricky. It would just honestly be such a horrible card to top deck in a grind game. So overall, I just don't know about the card, right? I haven't seen a single list that was successful actually running the card, but the card seems really cool in theory. It might be a fun idea to test out at your locals or something more casual like that. Interestingly enough, the card only has one secret rare printing from back in Cybernetic Horizon. I don't know why. I could have sworn that the card was a rare in the Megatons, but I couldn't see anything about it online. For now, the secret rares are just $1 or $2, depending on if you want a first edition or unlimited copy. I don't know, I think that this might be a cool thing to have a playset of just in case, because who knows, maybe the card will be good with like Danger or something like that down the road, but don't go crazy and invest in too many copies of this card since it definitely does not have the results or showing to justify too much of a price spike just yet. Alright guys, that is all we have for today. Once more, I want to wish everyone good luck with their Battles of Legends pulls. I'll probably be doing a video this weekend or early next week discussing what cards I think we should be holding on to from Battles of Legend that might make good long-term investments, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure that you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Also, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.